I'm CK. Tonight we're going to build a Befaco Noise Plethora. We haven't built anything from Befaco in a little while, so we'll do that. It's got 3 sound generators that can be noise, can be other things. It's got 3 filters and some other interesting things to go along with it. It's a hefty piece of equipment and it's 14 wide, so that's pretty big. So this will probably take us a couple of nights and we'll see how it sounds. And I hope you enjoy the video. The bag from Befaco in Barcelona. Noise Plethora version 1.1, firmware version 1.5. Let's get the paper out first. And it's got the circuit board and front panel, but we'll look at the paper first. Bunch of resistors, diodes. I'm looking for anything particularly interesting that they may have here. So here's a picture of the 2 boards. That's a whole heck of a lot of resistors. Resistor time is going to be like a half hour tonight, and you won't have to put up with it. Let's take a look at the circuit board and the front panel to get an idea on how we'll be interacting with this thing. So, Noise Plethora, cutoff frequency, resonance, CV. Looks like that CV might go to cutoff x-axis, y-axis, I believe. Program, there's some LED displays there. Switch, high pass, band pass, and low pass, 2 of them. 2 outs for these 2 generators, and then this one is mostly, I believe, mostly noise, gritty, filtered, and white noise. Resonance, grit quality, cutoff CV for the cutoff frequency. So as you can see, there's a lot here. These 2 noise generators look symmetrical, so on the circuit board the same pattern of components will exist. Well, that all looks good. Now let's look at these circuit boards. They are good quality, as Befaco circuit boards certainly usually are, with the excuse me, with the caveat that they've got the typical Befaco meandering, no straight lines in a circuit traces, which are, again, continue to interest and amuse me. Now, the componentry does not have values listed, so we will need that big sheet of paper. And this is all the pots, all the jacks. There's the 2 LED displays, 7-segment displays, an encoder to run between those. There's a bunch of presets apparently, and you can change those with the rotary encoder, all through-hole plated as usual. Though I will say, Befaco likes to go right to the edge of the board. These resistors are almost, the holes are almost open because they're so close to the side. Let's look at what else we have in here. The second board is what we're going to affectionately call the freaking resistor board. Resistors, 2 caps. Resistors, 2 caps, 3 caps. Resistors, and resistors, and resistors, and resistors, and resistors, and capacitors, and a bunch of chips. So that is the circuit boards. Here are the knobs, okay? I thought it was something else. Ha! It's just knobs. They're cheapy knobs. No locking, just press on kind of boring knobs. Another Befaco sticker, but we've got a ton of those. So here are the ICs, and we've got the two 7-segment displays and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 ICs. I'm going to peel this plastic back and I'll see if I can look at the numbers and see if there's anything I recognize. 074 op amp, of course. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 072 op amps. There's an MCP 6022. I think I've worked with that before. I think that's a little microcontroller, but I'm not going to swear to that in court. Then 4 AS 3320s. I'll look that up to see what that is. Or I'll forget. We'll see what actually happens. Power cable, pots and knobs, and the special Befaco panel nuts. Bag will go over there for much later. Here are all the jacks and switches, and looks like we've got a couple of acrylic panels to put over the 7-segment displays, and some spacers to hold the boards together. That all looks good. A Befaco panel nut wrench. I think that's like my 10th. Need to make those optional. There's bag B, which has a lot of pin headers, a lot of caps. This looks like mostly pin headers and caps, capacitors in there. And here is bag A with 6 diodes, it looks like, a ferrite core, at least one ferrite core, and way lot of resistors, and they all look to be 1/4 watt. So they're not dissipating much heat. So that's it. There's a bunch of stuff in this kit. It will keep me busy for a couple of evenings. Hopefully it'll sound wonderful when we get there. So I'm going to turn on the soldering iron, and we'll get ready to start putting this thing together. The AS3320s are voltage control filters, so that's 4 VCFs in this. Let's do our build guide, because again, we can't just look at the board and see where things go. Wow. First thing is 3300K resistors. Now, one thing I am going to do, which I sometimes do not, I am going to mark things off as I go, because there are so many resistors to put on here. So let's grab out the 33. I keep saying it because that's a lot. 3300K resistors. Not much more to talk about with the resistors, so I will be putting them all on, and I will put the, I missed a spot. I will put the video in fast playback, and there won't be any commentary for all this. I will be listening to WQXR 105.9 FM on their iPad app out of New York City. Piano Concerto No. 4 in G minor by Rachmaninoff. This is the best classical radio station in the world. Enjoy resistor time. 110 or so resistors later, and we're done with resistor time for today. Let's see what the fine folks at Befaco say we want to do next. Probably the diodes, if I was a betting man. Yes. Fortunately, I am a betting man. The two power conditioning or circuit protection diodes. And then I'm going to do the ferrite beads at the same time because they're in the same area. So we will nip this little bent end off here. We'll take this little resistor lead that I saved from earlier, bend it down on the core like that, and put it in F1. And of course, ferrite cores have no polarity. They're just chunks of conductive material. Now we'll do the sockets. There's a bunch of sockets because there's a bunch of ICs. Make sure we get all the right sizes in the right places because there's a bunch of different sizes. That's all the sockets. I'm not going to put the ICs in yet because I'm going to be handling this board quite a bit. Now we're going to dive in to the caps. And we've got 2800 nanofarad 104 decoupling caps because we've got so many chips. And that's all of them. Now, the 270 pico. Should be 7 of them, and there'll be these little blue ones. Now we'll just put all the rest of the disc caps in. And then one big fat cap. And it goes in C34, and they tell you that it's close to resistor whatever, and don't worry about that. And because I knew it was going to be going in there, I actually moved the resistor a little bit to the side when I soldered it down. And that's all those. Now we've got even more caps. We've got the electrolytics. Now we've got 2 voltage regulators. Actually, I don't see it on there. Maybe they put it over here. Oh, they did. They put it over here. Huh. I wonder why they put a regulator over on this board. And now, power connector. It's a right angle one. And where does it go? Power goes there. And of course you want to make sure it faces yonder. Now let's just double check, because the red stripe goes on this side, and we're going to take our power cable and make sure the keying puts it on the correct side, and yes it does. Now we'll do all the ICs. First the 4 TL072s. And that's the ICs. Let's see what we got next. Now we'll do all the pin headers. Let me give a small test fit here to see if we're going to be close. And these are This one got a little cattywampus. Fortunately, it's a 4-pinner, so I can just put my soldering iron in the midst of it all and fix it right up. Yep, they're all going to go on. Now it's time to put the Teenie board on, or Teensie, whatever the heck it is, Teensie, over here, and the Befaco codec over here. Now, as you can see, we got to be above this, and this is a little more complicated than you might normally do. So what we're going to do is we're going to take, so let me show you how it's going to end up just to begin with. So I'm going to put these two pin headers together right now, if they'll go together. Come on guys, go together. Don't be fighting me on this. Why are you fighting? We're going to have this, which you may have to shove this capacitor a little bit, just a little tight in there between the socket and the capacitor. We're going to put that one there. And of course I missed a hole. Put that one there. And the other one here. Now that still leaves this. This is not a normal header. This is one of these pogo headers, which these little pins are spring loaded in there, because on the back of the Teensie board, as you can see here, see these little contact pads? That's what the pogo is going to press against once we get it all together. But first we're going to do this part. And we're going to do the same thing with the codec over on this side. But I'm going to do one thing at a time. So first, just to make sure everything is aligned, we'll put the Teensie board on first. And let me grab some solder. And as you can see, the USB connector goes that way, and there's an outline on the circuit board. Oh, one other thing, just to make another comment here. As you can see, on the other side, see the Teensie board is here, and on the other side we've got two pots. Now you might think, well, how the heck am I going to solder them if I put the pot in here, or the pot here, it's behind the Teensie board? Well, Befaco, in their typical, let's get every component as close as we can, but make it all work, got an interesting thing here. This pot is going to sit with the legs that way, so the three legs are here, and on this one, the three legs are up here. So as you can see, I can solder both those places with the Teensie board in place. So if you look at it and you scratch your head, just say to yourself, the folks at Befaco are masters at cramming a whole lot of stuff rather elegantly into a small area. So don't worry about it. Just do your thing. You will have to be a little bit careful. We'll get to that when we get to it. But I'm going to solder one leg on each of those first. And now I'll do all the rest of these pins. Oh, be careful. Again, We've got surface mount components here. You don't want to have your soldering iron on this side. You want to stay on the outside with your soldering iron so you don't brush against the surface mount components that are already installed on the board. Now, you might think, okay, I'm going to take this back off before I solder the bottom pins and put the pogo header in, but you don't want to do that because it'll be spring tension pushing it back up. So you want to solder both sides, and then we'll just separate the pin headers again. Now, as I said, I'm going to pull the Teensie board back out for a second, get the pogo header, drop it in its holes, if I can not be dopey. Come on, go through. There we go. That's gone in pretty tightly, which is good. And you can see with the pin headers, or with the pogos retracted, it's below the level of the this piece of plastic. So you can take a look, and as we drop it down, I can see pretty much, let me use my phone flashlight here for a second and make sure that I can see all the pogos contacting the right place. Yeah, see, this board doesn't allow me to do that. On some boards you can put a meter on that side and the bottom part of the pogo, and you'll know for sure that you've got conductivity. And I don't know that for sure, but I'm going to make a maybe unwarranted assumption that they're on there just fine. Now I'm going to solder the pogo legs. So that is the Teensie board and the little pogo headers. Now the codec itself is pretty standard. Here's the pogos. Now we're going to do all the 3 position switches. So I'm going to take this bag of stuff and put it in this tin. I've got 2 switches. Go here. Oh, they fit in very snugly, don't they? I don't have to worry about them falling out when I'm soldering them. Now we're going to do the spacers on the control board. And they'll go here, here, and here. Interesting, they want us to put all the jacks on the PCB first and then do the other components. That's an interesting path to take. So we'll put all the mini jacks on. And to make sure this all is going to fit, I'm going to put the panel on. I could do all the rest of the pots and knobs, but I'm not. I typically do, but Befaco specifically says in this case to do the jacks first, and since we're following the build guide, we'll do that. But I'm going to solder 1 pin on this one, way up here, and solder 1 pin on this jack, way down here. Make sure they're fully flat at both the ones I did, and they are. And now I'm going to put panel nuts on those two that I tacked one on. Not very tight, just to keep the panel from not moving. And I'm not putting the right color on both of these. Yes, I actually am, but so now that keeps everything together. Nothing is moving. So I'm going to solder all the jack pins. Take the nuts back off, because now it's time to put all the pots on. And the wayward switch that I didn't put on the last time. Okay, this one, because it's under the Teensie board, we're going to have to clip this leg off. Looks like a couple of them that are under here, you're going to clip one of the support legs off. Let me get my carbide cutters. These are carbide steel, so when I cut, they're good for cutting metal, and they don't get damaged when you do that, and they do a good job cutting. They're more expensive than regular side cutters, but they're going to last you forever, and they're going to be the right thing. Now this is where we don't want to solder this before we have the panel on, because since I had to cut that leg, and I'm going to have to cut this leg, and I'm going to have to cut a leg here, that means these are kind of slopping around a little bit. So we will only solder them after we're sure we put the panel on and we're sure that everything's perpendicular and going to work just fine. But now I'll put all the rest of these pots on. Now we'll put the rotary encoder on, and I think they want us to get rid of something here. We'll drop the LED. Now I've been keeping track of that LED all day, and I gotta see where it goes. Where is it? Oh, there it is. And a nice big plus sign where it goes. Now we'll take the 7 segment displays. Now we're also, before we put the front panel on and solder everything together, we're going to take these little glass or plexiglass, whatever. I don't know if they have coating on them. I'm going to assume they don't. Get my polishing cloth. Let's see how firmly they go into these holes. They don't go firmly enough that there is a plastic film on here. Okay. I'll tell you what I'm going to do, because nobody's going to be able to see it. I'm just going to put a little bit of tape. Make sure we can't see the tape from the front side, and we can't. Now we put everything together. Remember, the pots are, the jacks are already correct, so we're just going to be adjusting all the pots to go through their various holes. Here we go. Now that's not the easiest pot setup that I've done, but it's not bad. Now we got to get over the jacks again. Ah, bless my heart. I pressed on the stupid plastic panel again. Just got to do it all again. Now, oops, and that 8 segment or 7 segment came out. Again, not the easiest front panel install, but not the worst either. And there we go, now we're all flat. And I'm going to once again put panel nut on jacks on either end. Now we're going to put all the potentiometer panel nuts on. Because that'll get the potentiometers lined up and flat to the board. Now we're ready to solder everything, but I'm not going to do that this evening because the cats want to get fed. We're on the home stretch for soldering now that I'm back after taking care of the kitties. I'm not going to do the pot soldering quite yet. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the 7 segment display and the LED, because what you want to do with the 7 segment is you want to make sure it's firmly up against the little plastic windows we put in. So, and of course the LED wants to go into that hole there, indicating the bank number that it's associated with. So I don't bang this silly thing like I just did. That looks all good, and double checking that the dot is in the right place, triple checking, and those parts aren't going anywhere. And as I said, we're going to have to take the codec out again because there are a couple of things from the potentiometer that need to get soldered underneath it. There is nothing underneath the Teensie board. So just, I'm going to solder all this stuff. No need to see that, so I will turn the cameras off. Okay, so the Teensie board is back on, and everything's soldered. I'm going to send a note to Befaco about this. There are some really absurd places to solder. Look at this pot here, or this jack here, for example, has a pin that's here. Let me see if I can zoom in on this. I'm pretty bad at zooming in on stuff. Yeah. It's here. It's touching this connector, and it's almost touching this spacer. Here there's a leg between this resistor, voltage regulator, and capacitor. You can barely get an iron in there. Here's another one where it's right up against the plastic of this pin header. They need to just take one more horizontal position, just 5 more millimeters to the left or the right, and spread this out a little bit. This is not up to their usual level of layout, in my opinion, and that's unfortunate. But it's all together, and when you're doing this, just take your time, use your best solder discipline, and just be careful. So again, the As I said at the very beginning, the knobs are pretty basic. Okay, all the knobs are on now. Next, I'm going to put all the panel nuts on the jacks, and I'm going to turn the cameras off again for this one. Now we're in the home stretch, and one thing I noticed as I was putting all the panel nut screws on the jacks is if you buy one of these and want to use all its capabilities, you're going to have to buy a whole pack of patch cables. There's 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 inputs and 5 outputs that you can do. So that'll be fun for you. Now I'm going to mate the two boards. Again, we test ran it a while back, so it should, I hope that fits. That goes in, that goes in, and that goes in. This, okay, this is annoying. There's the encoder board is interfering here. The Teensie board is fine. The encoder board is not. Let me see if I can do some brute force. Well, okay, there's a little brute force that got it together. So that's a little bit of a misstep too. Again, this is such a tight construction on this one. And one final thing, we'll put the power cord in. Again, red stripe on this side, and the keying works for that. That's all in there. So there we go. Here's the front, the side, the back, the other side, top, and the bottom. Now after all that soldering and fussing and whatever, we'll put it in the rack and hear how it sounds. Okay, well, so we're in the rack. Let's fire it up, see if anything catches on fire. We should see the version number on the display panels, and that is, it said something, I didn't see what it said. I think it said 1.0. So I could update this, but I'm not going to do that right now. Let me try that again just to see what I'm actually getting. 1.5. Well, that's bigger than 1.0, so I'll stick with that. So let's see, we should be getting some noise out of it. So that's program 0. Let's go to program 1. Program 2, 3, 4, 5. Try move the cutout along. Bring in some resonance. I'm going to go low pass now. Try another bank. Now I'm going to switch. So now I'm working on this second bank. Moving the resonance around. That sounds pretty neat. Let me go. Okay, I'm going to put some X and Y coming in from my LFO. Now I'm going to go ahead and put control voltage in for, I think this is note control voltage, or, but we'll see. Let me turn it back up. Hold on one sec, let me grab the user manual. No, there isn't a input for CV for value of the noise frequency. So let me go ahead and just start shoving things in. See what happens here. I'm going to take this out of where I put it, and I'm going to put this in program B. I'm going to take this out for a minute. Okay, now so my sequencer is feeding note CV in there. And we'll put something else over here. I'm going to do that. This is crazy. Oh, that's kind of neat. So I'm putting the LFO into the program input, and it's cycling through. So that's kind of fun. Go to low pass. Okay. Take that back out, put it over here. Put the LFO in here. That controls the cutoff. I'm going to speed up the sequencer a little bit. Change banks again. this back in here, because I kind of like this best right now. Okay, let's go down to straight noise output right now. So here's white noise. That's just strictly white noise for you to do something with. Here's some gritty. Doesn't seem to be doing anything. I may not understand it right. Go to filtered. Go to high pass. Gosh, that's loud. So we can change the cutoff, so we'll see if we plug that in there. I'm going to try the cutoff in gritty. Oh, I see what this is doing. So that's some good white noise output. I'm going to go back here to A. Hear that little movement? I'm going to plug something in here. Let me try it over here. I'm going to put another cable in for the other out of the LFO with a triangle wave for CV to the cutoff. Oops, dang it. As I did that, I hit the reset button on the Teensie board. That's no good. You normally wouldn't have to encounter that. Take this in again. So there you go. I could mess around with this all day, but that's it. It's a great noise generator with lots of filters, lots of basic noises or program noises that you can read the information on. So number one is 4 square wave oscillators. Two is mod frequency, oscillator 1 frequency, oscillator 1 frequency again, cross mod ring. Now that affects both waves frequency, and so on and so forth. This is a great noise generator with lots of color, and down here you've got some rather straightforward noise outputs that you always need for making interesting percussion and some other and atmospherics. But this is a very good, very fun unit. Another unit, a good unit from Befaco. I will say there's a lot of soldering in this unit. Took me more evenings than module usually takes. And again, some of the soldering is so tight that they really need to add one more HP width so they can give it some air so you can actually solder stuff without running the risk of burning other components or bridging contacts. But that's a minor nitpick. If you're good at soldering, get this and put it together. When you do put it together, you're going to have a great noise generator with lots of options. And I hope you enjoyed the video.